The wait is over. It is time. March is here. Actually, we're in the third week of March? Should call it March, April Madness. Yeah. Nonetheless, it's here.
This year kind of works out. Yeah, it's going to be like April 8th.
Yeah.
The final.
But it's happening, and we're here. The Average Guys, Eric and Ty. It is the Average Sports Show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Welcome back. It's our season 2, episode 6, and it's the March Madness episode. So what are we not talking about in this episode?
Anything else but March Madness.
Anything else. Here it goes. We got brackets ready to fill out. Eric, how many brackets have you filled out already?
Half of one.
Half of one? Okay.
No, that's not true. I filled out one.
Oh, one. All right.
I filled out one for the show prep.
Are you sure?
We're doing some more.
Yeah, we definitely doing some more. I filled out 2 just to kind of, get the wheels moving. I have 3 of them staring at me in the face. One from Yahoo, ESPN, and CBS. Which bracket do you fill out?
I do the CBS, and I print it off, and I handwrite it in.
Oh!
Because I like to cross stuff out and then go back and then redo it. And,
you like?
I
okay,
like to
so
have it all in front of me.
You like to have the ability to cross it out so you can show people you kind of made the right pick? Is that what you're doing?
No, I just like to. I'll eventually put it into a computer, but when I'm filling out the bracket, I want the paper version in front of me so I can go back and make my changes if I decide to change my mind.
Digital's just too easy for you. I get it.
Sure, I guess.
Yeah, I like them all because you get different information on the online ones. And just so you guys know, on the... I don't know which one we're doing. We're doing a head-to-head. So we're going to do some comparisons on who make it a competition. We'll fill you in. Follow us on Facebook to find out our own picks and let us hear from you as well.
Yeah,
on what you got right because of some of this information, or what we screwed up on your bracket. But hey, I think we did pretty good last year.
Yeah, we did pretty good. We had quite a few upset picks. We did pretty well. I haven't gone back and listened to see if we were actually correct. I can't remember off the top of my head. But
we did have a
we
couple
are going
of
to post our brackets on our socials. So pay attention to that and post yours in the comments too, so we can see yours as well.
Okay. Now let's start it off with some of the teams that are in there, and just on the easy one, the 16 seed and one against all the 1 seeds. Last year we said just don't do it. There's no way, and of course, that's the 1 year ever.
I know.
16. So, let's just get this out of the way. Do you pick a 16 seed?
No, don't do it.
No, right. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't fall for it, guys.
It took almost...
It's a trap.
Yeah, it's definitely a trap. What, over 150 games? Something like 158 to 1 is the record there?
It was eventually bound to happen, I guess. Just in the law of averages. But I can almost guarantee it's not happening again.
Right. Yeah. So between
happening.
the Fairleigh, DeSant, I don't even know some of these teams. Prairie View, A&M, those 2 teams are playing. Then you got NC Central, which is, I think this is the second time. I feel like they were recent, as early as last year or 2 years ago, that they were coming in as 16 seed. They had to play the early tournament to get in against North Dakota State, which we know, if we recall, had some success not too long ago. So I think that's going to be the most intriguing game out of the 16 seed teams. You also have Temple and Belmont playing. That should be a good one. St. John's and Arizona State for those 11 seed wins, or those playoffs to get into the tournament. And back to the 16 seeds, though, again, I just don't see anyone. They're going to have to play against, looking at overall number 1, Duke, Virginia, North Carolina, and Gonzaga. All with stellar records, stellar teams, and of course, just a notable history. I don't see any of them, falling this year. So, all right.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how many people actually still pick G-Web to beat Virginia, because it happened last year. I wonder if some people are going to fall into that trap and go for the G-Web over Virginia. But Virginia can actually score a little bit this year, so I wouldn't be surprised if they can move the ball a little bit. And they've always still traditionally been a very defensive team, and they still are. But they have a fantastic backcourt, and I wouldn't be surprised if they absolutely dominate G-Web.
That's a good call. So that's going to take care of the 1s versus 16s just right there. Just don't worry about picking them. But how about 2s against 15s? 2s or 15s have upset the number 2 seeds a little bit more in tournament history. Do you think this is one of those years, though?
No, I don't see a single team on that 2 line that is overly vulnerable. Tennessee did not look great the other day against Auburn, but I don't see Colgate beating them.
Yeah.
And Michigan, I'm not super high on, to be honest. But again, I don't see Montana beating them either.
Right. And yeah, real quick about Tennessee. I mean, they've had their ups and downs, but that was against Auburn, a 5 seed, a team that won the SEC. So you got to give them a little credit as well. Tennessee, I think all their losses, have come to some pretty solid teams for this season. Now, one number 2 and 15 seed, just because I got to see them in the Missouri Valley Conference, was Bradley. It's one to at least look at. However, having gotten to see them, I know they don't foul much. They also don't score much. Michigan State, I think, is going to handle them just fine. It is the first time that Bradley's been in the tournament in over 30 years, so they're just excited to be around. And I think they're going to have a good time.
It's been a long time for them.
Yeah, indeed. So let's get into some of those harder picks. So that just brushes off those early 2s, you know what I mean, the highest 2 seeds and then the lowest 2 seeds. Moving on to, how about the really difficult ones? Let's look at all the 8 and 9 seeds and make some picks here. What do you think?
I wasn't really looking at a bunch of the 8 9s. I think those are overly difficult just because people put the numbers there. I think there's some very difficult matchups there, kind of in between that. I look at some of the 5-12s. And I think that some of those are pretty difficult. Some of the 7-10s too, but definitely some of the 8 9s. You got VCU and UCF, and one of the brackets you got Syracuse.
That's gonna be a good game,
Baylor,
by the way.
Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and Utah State, Washington. That's actually probably the one I'm least excited for. I don't think much of either of those 2 teams. And Oklahoma, I think, can actually potentially do some damage. I'm going to take Oklahoma over Ole Miss there, but I don't see them, again, I don't necessarily see them beating Virginia. I have Virginia being vulnerable starting at about the Sweet 16. Mm-hmm. And VCU over UCF. I'm definitely going to take VCU. They're probably a name that people know from several years ago, or at least that have recently followed the tournament. They're a decent team, and they pull the draw against UCF, but then they're probably going to get beat up by Duke. So. But I'm going to take VCU over UCF, and then we move on down a little bit. We got Syracuse and Baylor, and I'm probably going to have to go with Syracuse. I think I just like the history of that team. You got Boeheim still coaching there in Syracuse, and they seem to do okay in the tournament this year. Conference tournament leading into it. So those are the ones I got in the 8-9 seed. How about you? What do you got?
Yeah, I'm not too far off from you. I actually think UCF can pull this off against VCU. Yeah, the VCU has a bit more of a history. UCF, though, has been on this upward trajectory, winning the NIT. They are back in the tournament for the first time in several years. It's been, I think, over 10 years. Yeah, I'm looking it up right now, since 2005. And it's only the 5th time in program history. But this does seem like a program that's really kind of on their way up. So I would say look out for them. Their overall record, 23-8, worth looking at. That's all I could say. Going over to Ole Miss and Oklahoma. Yeah, I got to go with Oklahoma on that one. And looking at the one down in the South, Midwest, rather. Utah State and Washington. I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. In all of tournament history, the record is split. It's a coin toss, 50-50. So when you're looking at your 8 9s, you're just kind of cover your eyes and spin and point. Go off as much data as you can. An easy thing to do is looking at their last 5 games, last 10 games. Are they coming in hot? And right now, Utah State is the hot team. That's probably where I would go with. Just going off that, and that is a decent tool to at least guide you out of those 8 and 9s. It is worth clicking on some of the information that these brackets can give you. Syracuse, I can't agree with you more that they just seem to find a way to win in tournament time. So I would go with them. Gonzaga, they had maybe a softer year than they have in years past. That's a number 1 seed. I think it might be bounced first, by the way, into the tournament. So looking at Gonzaga and Syracuse in the round of 32, I think could be interesting.
Okay, there it is. That's the call right there. Ty's putting the Cuse over the Zags.
Yeah. All right. So staying around in the first round, as people are filling out their brackets, let's talk some upsets. Got any upsets that you just like? Yeah, that one. That's the matchup you got to look for.
Yeah, there are a couple.
Okay.
Some of the ones that I've really pointed out. I like UC Irvine, number 13 seed, beating number 4 Kansas State. I think this one is one that can be relatively easy to pick. I actually think it might be one of the more popular ones because Dean Wade of Kansas State looks like he is not going to be playing in that first game against the UC Irvine Anteaters, which coincidentally is one of my favorite team mascots. And so that one's kind of fun. And they can do pretty well in defensive end. They limit people to about 63 points a game. And I think that Kansas State is primed to get upset here by UC Irvine, especially without their best player in Dean Wade, who is I think their second best scorer and their best rebounder. So I would definitely be on the lookout for UC Irvine to beat them. And then another one too, when you look at some of the past in the history, you look at some of the best possible players that are going to be coming out of college, moving into the draft. And of course you have a player like Zion Williamson, who's going to be the number 1 overall draft pick, but don't overlook John Morant of Murray State. And Murray State draws, hold on, where are they? I just lost them on my list here. Murray State has Marquette. Marquette is a team that can be dangerous, but I want to say, well, what is their last 5 games? They've lost 5 out of their last 6. You just mentioned that a minute ago with the 8-9 seeds and something to kind of look for. Marquette has been coming in cold, and you have one of the best players that's going to be drafted is potentially a top 3, most likely definitely a top 5 pick there out of Murray State. And I think that he can command quite a bit. And the 5-12 seeds are always a dangerous one to pick for some upsets. Some other ones to look at. I wouldn't really call it, well, that's actually more of a bracket buster. But another one that I would call is be on the lookout for Vermont. I think that they're a team that is primed to go. Florida State doesn't really have any star players. They're kind of average across the board. And so I think that they could possibly see something there. And another team, I think this might be one that you potentially call out, but the Billikens of St. Louis, very talented team, a lot of senior leadership on that team, but they played terrible this year.
They did.
There was no way that they were making it into the tournament without winning that A-10 conference, but they did it, and they did it in very savvy fashion. 3 of their 4 games, they were behind at halftime, going into the second half, and they came back, including a 15-point deficit at one point to end up winning the A-10 tournament. So be on the lookout for them. I'm not necessarily personally going to pick them, but someone that may be on some radars.
Yeah, you can't question St. Louis's tenacity and willingness to want to win. I agree, though. I don't know if they're going to have enough against Virginia Tech. My biggest upset I have my eye on is the 12-5 matchup up in the East. Liberty over Mississippi State. I would,
that was one I was
consider
eyeing
that
too.
one. Certainly, Liberty's just got this chance. That seems like that hot hand going against a team that's actually struggled a little bit, and Mississippi State is only 1-5 against 25 teams, so they kind of shows that they crack maybe a little bit under pressure, and willing and an ability to keep the ball out of the bucket for Liberty. They have some pretty decent defense. It looks like so.
Yeah, like 61 points a game.
And
They're
you know something?
good.
I like Yale. Just as a little bit of the headline, LSU down in Louisiana, they don't have a coach right now, or they're going through some coaching issues.
Yeah.
Is that going to shake things up or not? But Yale had to upset Harvard over the weekend. So, yeah, I really consider that one.
Yeah, LSU is definitely one of the 3 seeds I don't have going very far, given the fact that they don't have a coach. There's a lot of off-field issues there. They're incredibly talented, but they are very much misled, and it showed in the SEC tournament. Are they going to be able to rebound? I wouldn't count on it. At the furthest I see them going would be the Sweet 16. They're going to get bounced by Michigan State if they make it.
And looking beyond then the teams that should be upset, and you get up